Hello and welcome back. Another very busy week, but one evening this week I did manage to get another couple of signals in. We can see them just down there, and I did manage to get a few things put away, so the layout's beginning to look a little bit more empty or tidy, depending on your point of view, but still got a lot of stuff down here on the floor because I'm going to work round that end of the railway to get some more signalling in. If we have a look down here, I've got a few signals stood in. So again, over the next week, ideally, or maybe later tomorrow afternoon, we're late Sunday evening at the moment. Saturday evening at the moment. So you can see I've got a handful of signals down there, so that's going to involve just getting a few things out there. So looking much tidier, apart from around the base of the controllers. And I've got a couple of Hornby Dublo plastic super detail type wagons out there, and I was just about to get the little tank loco off the turntable, but somebody sent me a nice box of items, so I thought we'd just have a quick look over those, because that's why I've got the Hornby Dublo wagons out there. So we'll just swap cameras and have a look at this lot. These items were sent to me in this box. They were a lot better wrapped up than that, so I've sort of unwrapped them and started to have a fiddle. So if we get these items out of the box, so we've got quite a play-worn transcontinental Caboose, old-time Caboose there. So that will be R449. These are available sort of mid-60s, 64, 65. And this one's got a few little bits missing. So we'll just get them out of the box, and we'll get the box out of the way. I think it'll make things a little bit easier. And there's a Hornby Dublo wagon, so it's in plastic, possibly from the super detail range, possibly from a starter set. So we'll just quickly run through these. And this guards van, brake van in bright red. I love this. This is a really lovely item. And then we've got a black Princess here. So we've got a tender. So obviously missing some decals. It's going to be sort of pre-58 with these type of couplings. And we've got the appropriate locomotive to go with it. So let's see if we can make that disappear. And we'll pop these things down a little bit more of a coherent manner. So let's start with the Princess. So I'm thinking sort of, late 50s. So before we went over to the Mark III style couplings. So the gentleman who sent me these said he'd quite like to see them sort of up and running. So he found them when he was having a clear out. So we've got a few bits missing. I think we can probably find another safety valve here. Definite screw down the chimney. We've got a buffer missing there. But I think this is probably going to run. So we'll just have a swift look over these little bit missing there. Those are often missing. So a little bit of cab detail. So we'll pop that down. We'll come back to that a bit later in the video. And then we've got the tender, as we saw that came out in the box. I think any lining that was on this will be long gone. So my aim is just to clean these up and get them into a sort of a condition where they'll run. So the axles are quite rusty. We're going to have those out of there. And that's sort of misshapen, isn't it? And it's lovely the way this sort of plugs in, the Mark II style coupling sort of plugged into there. That's going to need a little bit of tidying up. I'm not sure whether I've got another coal load, possibly. And then we've got a little bit missing there. So we won't get too carried away with it, but I think we can definitely have that in nice running condition. So this Caboose, it's got a number of pieces missing. It's got some cracks. It's definitely enjoyed some playtime. The chimney, I don't know if you have a look at the insert picture there from one I showed some time ago on the railway. It's a very, very delicate item. We've got the walkway is a little bit damaged. So my plan, as I don't think I'll be able to do much renovation on this at the moment, what I want to do is create a 3D printed part for here. As I was saying last week, I want to make some sort of upgrades to my 3D printer before I start working with it again. I think it must be last January when I did any 3D printing. So I want to replace some parts to make it to improve its operation. And I think I'll be able to make a walkway for that quite nicely there. And I think, looking at the steps, there shouldn't be too much of a trouble to generate some replacement steps there. So I have as I said, I've had a fiddle with this. I have managed to ease the roof off of it here and the original weight. So see the top part there just plugs in. So you can see the chimney would have plugged into there. So I'll also see if I can make a chimney, but perhaps not as ornate or bendy as the original one that went on it. So this weight has should been snapped off. It should be plugged into the base there, and see it's all come away. So maybe it's been dropped and that's just sheared off. So we'll see if we can get that sort of fixed up. I don't really want to take the wheels off this because I think this is so fragile. I don't want to break this sort of detailing underneath there, but that's a project, so we're probably not going to get much action on that one today. But these Hornby Dublo style wagons, I think these are rather lovely. These will just benefit from a little bit of a clean, a bit of warm soapy water. I think we'll get these sort of up and running again. So that says Hornby there, and we've got made in England Meccano Limited plastic wheels, so these are definitely going to run on the 2-rail. I'm going to use them on the 3-rail. Quite interesting. See these plastic plugs? They're incredibly light. I don't know whether there was a weight in this and it's missing, but this is it's even much lighter than the ones I've got on the railway. But we've got some nice detail in there. So we'll get that cleaned up, and then this lovely brake van. So I have an idea this would look quite nice with the breakdown crane and that red wagon I got recently. But I think this is probably from a starter set. So again, being a little bit unfamiliar with the Hornby Dublo items, I'm a little bit unsure. Again, incredibly light, and we've got that sort of plastic plug-in affair there. So it really is quite a lovely item. So I have had an experiment with the breakdown crane on the railway, and sadly, because of the placing of the elevated section, it doesn't run on this railway. The sort of winding handles on the edge of it catch on the elevated piers. But it would look lovely with that. But I suspect we'll be able to get that to run with it in the future, perhaps. We're late Sunday afternoon now, so I've got a few things done with those items on the bench. We'll have a look at those in a moment. But I was just about to get this tank locomotive. I brought it out onto the turntable yesterday. Let's sort of back that up and see if we can just grab those wagons and we'll push them round to the other side of the railway. And ideally, once we've got everything cleaned up, we can add them to the train. So let's make a number 11 curve there. And let's see if we can push these around. I've left the controls annoyingly just out of reach behind me. Got them now. So we'll just send that one forward now. And we'll just grab those. Slowed down a little bit too late there. I was looking over my shoulder where they were, and then not actually turning the controller early enough to take effect. So I think we'll just leave those sort of in that area there. So late last night I decided to start disassembling a few things. So let's have a look at this first. Let's do this in order. We've got the Hornby Dublo train ready to go there. So that's the little yellow wagon. I've given that a good clean and left it to dry overnight. It is really very, very light, and it's come up really, really nicely. Just given the wheels a bit of a go with a cotton bud, so we can pop that on the rails. I think that's very similar to the one we've got on there, but a bit more lemony. Let's just take this backwards a little bit so we can have a look there. So let's pop this one on here. So I think it's got a lot, apart from the lettering, I think we've got a lot in common with this one here. But we'll get these hooked up, and then we'll jump back to this one. We've got the brake van, the great bright red brake van. I showed these two in a video some time ago. I'll leave a link to the video with these, and they came from the market store with a brake as well, sort of X set, still in the cardboard sort of trays. That they must have been pulled out of the set. But yeah, I think that's the same moulding on those two. Just no topography on the sides there. I might be wrong, but it looks very, very similar at the moment. Let's have a glance down here. So we'll ignore the trying stuff for the moment, and let's just have a look at the Dublo brake van there. So these little insides of the brake van are just slot-in parts. I think if I swap to the other camera, we'll have a better look at that. Like the yellow wagon, I gave this a good wash, sort of warm soapy water, and along with its base, I allowed it to dry overnight. There's a slight crack in that securing post there, but I don't think it's too bad. So let's just have a look at these parts. They sort of just slot in here. It's quite nice. I thought it was all one molded item before I pulled it apart. So that's quite a lovely solution to the problem, isn't it? Maybe this was easier than molding it all as one, because those Triang brake vans are all, I think the top part of the molding, I think we're losing focus there, the top part of the molding was all one item. So let's just pop that down there for a second, and then we'll have a look at the chassis. And you see the pegs coming through the base of the chassis here that are securing those in there. And I think other wagons may well have had metal pins through there, so they've just perhaps cheapened it a little bit and made it plastic. Certainly cuts down on the weight there, and the large securing screw is going to hold the whole lot together. We're keeping some sort of focus there. It's a lovely coarse thread on that, isn't it? I don't know what the material is in that. It's sort of slightly tarnished, and it's incredibly light. I don't think it's steel. Let's see if we can put this whole thing together under the camera here. So that's going to go on there. I don't think there's a right and the wrong way around there. We'll soon find out. Actually, there might be a right and the wrong way around there. That doesn't line up with the securing post underneath. So let's turn that around and see if that changes things. Am I getting that lined up in the right place? Maybe not. There, it's lined up with the securing post, so the black chassis just protrudes slightly either side. So maybe I just needed to slide it backwards and forwards a little bit to get it to line up before. So let's just pop that in there. Let's see if we can get a screwdriver in there. I'll just turn that backwards and see if we can catch the thread. There we go, we've got that. It's very delicate. I don't want to over crank that because there is a little crack in that securing post. So there, that's all back together. I think it seems we've got this all up and running here at the moment. The camera. We'll have a look at some of the other items, how I got on with them last night. So we'll go back to the caboose now. I know I said I wasn't going to take the wheels out of this, but in the end I had some warm soapy water, and I thought I'd just leave that to warm up a little bit, and then I very gently pulled it apart, and the wheels came out much more convincingly than I had thought they were going to. There we go. So I've cleaned up the wheels, cleaned up the axles, because they were all definitely grubby and so on. So we won't put those in right now. There's the other one. I'll get both of them up to camera there. There's both of the wheels. So I'm not sure whether somebody's painted the edge of those silver or not. I know that there is some other painting on this model. I think they may have had to go with the wheels. I'm not quite sure, or maybe that's just the effect of time and age over the edge of those wheels. So we'll pop that down. Also, I don't know whether you remember that the weight was floating around separately inside the brake van here, or the caboose, with this little piece of plastic, and an attempt to glue it together had been made before. So I think polystyrene cement had been used, and it was a little bit misshapen, the plastic. So I've encouraged that back together and put that sort of pin, that piece of plastic that was secured to the weight back in, and glued that overnight. And then I've just popped the screw back through there and held that back in place. So that's all sort of reassuringly sort of secure now and not rattling. So I'll hold it on the rails, because they're very light models, these. And I whipped off the couplings. Again, there was a little bit of surface rust on these, so I've had a little go at cleaning those up. I'll just re-black those a little bit when I reassemble the model, but I'm not going to reassemble just at the moment. Let's pop actually no, we'll get that bit there. So that's one of the verandas or walkways. Now I'm going to 3D print another one of those, I think. So, or another 2 of those. I'll make a new one because this one's got a missing part as well. So we'll make something that looks convincing to go on there, and we'll get that installed in there. We'll make up some steps as well. So that just eased out. There's just tiny little clips there. I hope I'm not holding this too close to the camera. Looking at the back of the camera, it's really difficult to tell when you're in focus or not. It looks convincing from this distance, but often it's not quite there when you look at it later. So we'll pop those down. So I was quite pleased with those. And these are terribly fragile. These parts here, these are terribly fragile, and one of them has just sort of broken off. I think that was broken off when it came to me. But yeah, let's pop those items down there. The roof, as you remember, it was very grubby, so we've given that a wash. I haven't re-glued the roof. It's got a significant crack in it. I'm in 2 minds whether to glue that or just leave it. But I've got time on my hands there, so I think if I sort of pin that down and glue it carefully from behind and then hold it, let it sort of clamp it together while it is, we might improve that. But I'm going to reserve judgment on that for a moment, because I think maybe once it's back on the model it might just hold itself in the right place. I was going to just sort of take out the little plug in there where the chimney was. I'll just run a small drill through there, I think, and that might even push out. I haven't given it a go yet, and that just unclips from the top. So we've got all that ready to go, and we'll 3D print a chimney, but perhaps not as optimistically bendy as the original. So that's the caboose, but I got further along with that than I had intended to. I wasn't even going to start on that. And then earlier this morning, when I had a few moments, I had a look at the tender. So I got the tender apart. Let's have a look at that. And there was a weight inside. I've got the weight out, and I've taken the coupling out, so that's how it looks at the moment. The wheels were a little bit of a trial to get out. You can see all that rust and stuff in there. I'll show you the axles in a second. If we look down that, there is a little bit of a twist in it. But I'm going to find I think I'm going to need new axles. Let's have a look. Let's grab these. We'll get the lot and bring these up the camera and have a look. So you can see rust as it's a sort of staining effect. It's been a little damp over time. These things sort of attract moisture, and it's got into these axles. They've swelled at the ends. I'm not entirely sure whether it's worth trying to clean those ones up. The metal is far too far gone, so I've got a couple of dead tenders with the various bits missing in the drawer over there. So I'll see if I can pinch some of those, and we'll replace those and see how the wheels are. I've definitely got more wheels available should I need them. Let's pop those ones down. This is sort of, as far as trying wheels of this era go, they're not in bad condition. It's just how they clean up on the inside, whether they still roll around a really nice axle or not. So we'll keep that something to do. So we're not going to do all of this on camera. And there is the coupling. So that little block just goes into. Whoops! Let's grab this. So we've got this little what do we call it? Slot. So that coupling block just drops into there. So I'm going to give this a bit of a clean. I think this will probably clean up, although I can probably lay my hands on another one if I need one, but I'm fairly confident that one will clean, and we can encourage that back into the correct shape. So that was all fairly good going. Obviously we've got the weight here and the little pin for the drawbar, all quite nice. That will clamp back into position on there when we reassemble the tender. And I think possibly I might have a coal load. I think I said that yesterday. There's a little crack in there, but that's neither here nor there. And that little plug there will just hold the coupling block in place. Sorry, I'm running out of breath here. I'm forgetting to breathe when I'm talking. So there's the weight. I think that's pretty much the same. Yeah, I think that's a very similar weight as in there, isn't it? So that just really leaves the locomotive. But I think what we'll do is we'll just get this on the rails, and we'll just give that a swift run with the tank loco, and then we'll come back and have a glance at that. Just get this hooked up on here. Let's see if we've got that on the rails. Yeah, that's a lovely rattly sound, that, isn't it? And we got those hooked up. There we go. So if I just grab the controls here. So let's give this a little power. Can we see it go under there? And let's just bring that the other way now. So we're going to lose under the station quite rapidly there. Let's see if we can just have a look at it running under here. Definitely quite a rattly sound coming from that brake. That would benefit from a little bit of weight, I think. So try and hold the camera steady there. So we're going to lose it under there for a second. And I've changed the point, so we better run that right back around. I'm turning the controller the wrong way. I was trying to add a little bit more power when I was turning it off instead. It's standing this side of the railway. My brain is telling me to turn the controls in the opposite direction because I'm looking at it from this side. So we're going to go under the elevated section. Slight hesitation on something under there. Let's see if we can get down low. And there we go again. So let's just stop that there. Definitely want to stop it this time. We'll pop the controls down. There we go. So we'll come back to this later. We'll get the Princess sorted out in a second, but let's just have a glance here at the 3D printer. So the last 3D printing I've done was for the elevated tracks and bits and pieces for the railway. So this printer is a Ender 3 version 2. Can't remember how long I've had it now. These have been superseded quite a bit. They're still for sale. They're heavily discounted at the moment. But last Christmas I was going to get round to putting a new print head on here and feed. So there's an all metal feed and all metal end print head. So there's no tubing, no plastic tubing, or PTFE, is it? I can never remember. The weak point of this printer, I think, is this tube system, and this feed system is not terribly good. So most of the faults I've had really have been with this. It doesn't last very long. I've tried all sorts of different brands of tubing with varying degrees of success, but it always comes down to swelling, jamming on here, or misfeeding here. So the Creality, I can't remember the name of the product now. Is it a Sprite? It's on the tip of my tongue what it is, but it's on their website. So it's an upgrade for this printer. You can buy this printer with it already on. So it gets rid of this and gets rid of all of this. So you've got a direct feed into the hot end. And also I get a CL Touch to assist with the levelling. You're still going to have to do a degree of levelling beforehand to get it in the right ballpark, but this will fine tune it, and that will further improve the prints. So that was the upgrade I wanted to do last sort of December really, but I never did get around to doing it for one reason or another. I've got an absolute fear of taking these things apart, making a mess of them, and so on. And I've looked at the videos and it looks quite straightforward to do. I have already replaced all of the fans in this. They've all worn out over the course of the time I've had it. So there's one on the board underneath there is replaced, and there's two in here I've replaced. So these things, I mean, there is a bit of maintenance required on them, and I think you've got to be prepared to sort of open it up and have a go. And it's sort of I don't know, it's a confidence thing. This sort of electronics is sort of just outside of my comfort zone, so I've sort of been putting it off. But now I've got a list of things I really want to print, so that's why I haven't done any printing for a while. Anyway, so we'll get back to the Princess on here and see if we can get that sort of up and running. I think we'll have some blood and custard coaches with it once we get it on the railway. I got a set of axles in there, and the wheels cleaned up surprisingly well. The axles are a fraction shorter than the ones that were in it. I couldn't find any which were as long as this one. Let me just get one like this is a bent one I've been using to knock the axles out with. So if you have a look there, it is actually a fraction shorter, but they seem to work quite well. I did have a go at trying to clean these ones up. If you have a quick look at the insert picture there. But once I got all that rust off, you'd had to take so much off that the splines, and they're incredibly fine on these particular axles, were not enough to hold the wheels. But they're very, very poor condition. So I think we're better off without those, and we'll just stick with these, because this is never going to run hundreds of miles, but it does sit on the track, and I think it'll do the business. So let's have a look there. I've reshaped that coupling, gave it a bit of a clean up, so that all works reasonably well. So we'll adjust the height on that. It's drooping down a little bit. Once we get that on the rails, we'll look at the height of that. So I've got the weight. Again, that had a bit of surface rust on it, so I've cleaned that off. I've put a little bit of black tack on the bottom side here, just to try and stop it rattling. So we'll put that in there, and we'll keep that on there. So we do have the screw which holds all this together, but ideally, when we get all that pushed down together, and we get the top back on, this is the fiddly bit. This is where you need more hands than I really have here. So let's see if I can hold that. I'm going to put this down to do this. So we'll pop that down there, and then we'll just put that in there like that. And there we go. So we've got and it is got a slight curl in the plastic there. Given all the plastic parts a good wash as well. And if you just see very, very carefully here, when you get the light on it, you can see where the lining was on here. So it's long gone. So I'm in two minds as to whether to put a decal on there. I haven't had a look. I've got some press fix ones, which may just sort of liven it up a little bit. But I'll make a decision how I'm going to do that. So if I can get the screw back in there. So there is a crack in there, but I'm not over worried about that. So we'll pop that in there, grab a screwdriver, see if we can find the thread. So I'm looking what I'm doing rather than what's actually happening. There we go, we've got the thread. So we'll just nip that in there. And again, that's all quite nice. That's where I'm just touching that with my fingers. But I mean, this has definitely had a good life. I did pull off a coal load. I thought I had some reproductions of these. I'm sure I had bought some last time I was at the Train Collectors show, but I can't find them. This is one I've borrowed from another tender. I'll try and get some focus on it. Also an acetate one. It's got a bit of a twist in it. So that sort of fits in there sort of relatively nicely. Although when I tip that over, that's going to come off. So I think we're in good shape with that. So we'll just put those sort of out of harm's way for a moment, out of shot. Get that track out of there, and we'll just have a look at the locomotive. Now the locomotive was missing one of the safety valves. Let's get that there. So I've pulled one off an old, I think that was a 262 tank loco chassis. It had its steps broken, so we've pulled that off there. And I've also found a buffer. I'm not going to fit them at the moment because I'm going to give this body a bit of a wash once we've got it off. So I know the lining there is sort of reasonable, but it's sort of worn away there. I'm in two minutes. It looks like it's had a splash of sort of model railway cement or something, model sort of Airfix type cement on there. So sort of something's eaten into it a little bit. So it's either that or we clean it off altogether and we just put some cabside numbers on, perhaps. I don't know. But we'll see how we do. Let's crack this thing out. I have noticed, let's have a look underneath here, that these rods here have been encouraged outwards. I don't know whether that's to create some space, some clearance for this when it's going around, and maybe there's been some collisions with the connection rods here, on here, but we'll see. We'll see how it works. We won't give it any power while it's like this. We'll dismantle it a little first. So we'll take the screw out of the chimney. Listen for the thread. I think we just had that there. So let's have a look over that. Let's get the long securing screw out of here. We're going to grab focus here. There we go. So I've got that upside down. Whenever we go to read these, I always turn this the wrong way up. So we have triang here, and we've got made in England, and then we've got there's an R50. I can't read that. 53 is that? I can't. When I play this back on the video, I'll be able to see it. So that's I think that's for the Green Princess, isn't it? 53, perhaps. Yeah, I think that's 53. Anyway, we'll leave that alone. The vagaries of my eyesight. So fairly dirty on the inside. We'll give that a clean. And I don't know whether 3D printing is the way to go to solve that, or we just ignore it, perhaps. So anyway, we'll pop that down. We've got the screw from down the chimney there. Looks fairly clean, doesn't it? I don't know whether it's not really necessary to brighten that up, I don't think. But we'll take this off, so it'll make it easier to play with the chassis. So just listening for the thread. I think that's got it there. Let's just lift that out. There we go. Let's have a look at that. So again, a little bit of cleaning on that. I think the wheels look like they're a matched set. Don't look to be cracked or anything like that. Again, a little bit of surface rust on here. So I'm unsure whether this was supposed to have a plastic part plugged onto it or not, or whether that was simply the detail. I'm unsure at the moment. I know earlier models would have had steps built into the bodywork here. We're going to grab some focus here eventually. Would have had steps built into the bodywork coming down there. I don't think, or maybe this one did have steps. No, I don't think it did. And then they put the step detail sort of down there, so maybe there's a plastic part missing from there. Let's have a look at that motor. So the motor seems to have been repaired at some point. I think the diaphragm's been replaced, and it's got looks like a self-tapping screw through there. I don't think there's much. Yeah, so it's not going to. Yeah, it won't. There's not enough magnetism in there to hold the screwdriver. I'm just going to take this truck off the back here. We'll use a slightly bit nicer screwdriver here. Yeah, so that's a bit more positive in the slot there. So let's feel for that to drop off. I think that's got it. So that's a shouldered screw there. I've just realised I've left the light in a really poor position for this. So let's just pop that down there. But we'll stick with it. So there is the motor, and that spins quite freely. And when I look underneath here, we've got the pickups. Now I think they're probably supposed to have the bend in. I think we had an earlier one earlier in the year has got bends in there, but perhaps these need a tiniest bit of reshaping because they don't seem to be in. Yeah, that's not making contact with that wheel at all. So some work to do there, and it's very, very dirty. Let's grab some power. Let's see if we've got that on there. Let's see if we've got anything. Whoops, we've got no focus. Let's try that again. We're going to get focus again. Here we go. So, but not on the wheels. Not on that one, certainly. Let's try that one. Yeah, so there's no contact with the pickup. Oh, no contact. Dirty. So I think a good clean overall on that. Let's see how we do with just a little power directly onto the motor here. Yeah, But I think with that lack of magnetism, we don't want to be running that too much, because that's just going to it's going to overheat the windings, and we don't want to do that, because maybe they've run overheated, or when it's just sat for a long time and the magnetism has gone, they do just run out. They sort of dissipate. These are older technology batteries. But let's have a look at that running again. I forgot to have a look at that. Let's have a look. So see if there's any danger of collision. We're going to grab focus again. Yeah, there we go. So let's give that some power. It's close, isn't it? I'm sort of wondering whether I'll just leave well alone. We'll leave it like that. We'll reconstruct it like that and see how it runs. Because I reckon if I start trying to bend those, we're going to snap those out of this block. And these blocks are rather difficult to find as well. So it's probably better to leave it alone. Let's just whip this bottom plate off and have a look underneath. And then I'll get these things all cleaned up. And we'll bring it all back together, and we'll find it some coaches and see how it does on the railway. Yeah, let's have a look there. So that's got the insulation piece of paper there as well. We're now late Wednesday morning. A number of other things have conspired against me to get this sort of project underway, or finished, should I say. But finally got there. So we've got the chassis all back together. Motor clean, works quite nicely. I didn't have to replace the diaphragm. It is a little bit wobbly, but it seems to do the trick. Remagnetized it, and it works really, really well. I don't have a screwdriver to hand here at the moment, so let's see if we can grab one here. We can see. Let's just get so see we've got that stick now. So that's going to pick the chassis up really, really nicely, whereas there was no discernible magnetism at all in there. So got the wheels out, give them all a bit of a clean. Got that sort of decal on there. It's not quite the same as a Triang one, but it's close enough at arm's length. It looks really quite good. Got the wheels all sorted. You saw those axles were a bit grubby, the ones that originally came out of it, and given the coupling a bit of a going over as well. So we'll pop that back on the rails. We'll give this a little power, see how it looks, and we'll have a look at oops, I'm looking at the wrong place. I'm looking at what I'm doing, but not where the camera is pointing. So we'll just give that a little power and let's have a look at the motor. So that runs relatively well, doesn't it? So remember, it's a few years old, this, and it's definitely been enjoyed, but I think there's plenty more life left in this as time moves on. So let's just send that around there and see if we can just hook up with some coaches. There, so I've got a horse box and a rake of maroon and cream coaches, or blood and custards, however you want to call them. So let's just take that forward now. I think we've got it. No, we haven't got it. Let's roll back again. There we go. A little bit more brute force that time. They come undone when you don't want and won't do up when you do want. So let's just step back a little bit and we'll bring that back into that siding. We'll put a nice gentle stop there. So we'll just have a quick look over what I did with the bodywork. So I know I've got two bodies here, but we'll put that one away for now. This is the one we were originally looking at, and I went down the route of putting cab side numbers on, because the one side of this is this side, so I can't see when I'm looking through camera. Somebody's dripped something that's melted the plastic there and on the cab, and it was almost all the way, and the decals weren't that great on the other side. They were more intact, but I thought in the end, if we just go for the cab side numbers like an early Triang locomotive, we might it might be just a little bit more pleasing. So we've got the buffer, replaced on there, and I've got the safety valve, and you can see I've mended that little part under there. Well, I've glued a bit in. I don't know whether we can, will this focus that close? I don't know whether we can see that. So I thought that was quite successful. So I had another dodgy body, which was in the scrap box, and it had the corresponding part on it, so I cut that off and made an attempt at gluing it back on. So there's not much left of this body. Look, somebody's had bits cut away in there and so on. So yeah, that's definitely an acetate one there. And these are the transfers I used. I can never remember the name of these. So they are, what was that? HMRS transfers. I refer to these as press fix for some reason. So I had some of these. There's just enough to do the numbering on there and do the decal on the tender. I was just putting the top back on and I thought we should probably look at the underside of this before we go too much further. So I said I was going to partially straighten out those pickup wipers there, and I have done just a little bit of work on them. And one of them certainly wasn't in a position where it was making contact with the back of the pickup wheel. So I've changed that, so that's working quite nicely. And also, I don't know whether you remember that the rods out of the blocks there are all bent out, and I was going to leave them alone, and I had a look at them, and I couldn't really see a reason why they should be bent out there, but so maybe somebody had another reason for that. So I've encouraged them straight. I had difficulty in straightening them without breaking them out of the blocks, but I think we've got a reasonable effect there now. So let's see if we can get that back on the rails. I don't know whether I'm going to be able to do this without adjusting the camera, to be honest. So let's have a look. I'm going to widen the camera so we have a better view there. Let's see if we can do this without turning the camera off. There we go. So let's encourage this on the rails. This would be time for a re-railer, wouldn't it? It would be much easier to do it that way around. So it's currently buried to my right on a shelf, which I can't see where it is at the moment. So I think we're all good there. So I'm just going to change a couple of points, and we'll run it around, take a route back to the outside line. So I want to sort of change that one, make that one straight, and I just need to check what else is happening. So we want to come through here. That axle flipped out of my fingers when I was cleaning it up using the rotary tool, and I've been searching for that, and I'd just picked up a second one. And so that's travelled all the way from over there to here, which is why it's really important that you wear safety goggles when you're using those rotary tools, because things can fly off with quite a force. And I thought I had that gripped in the jaws in the rotary tool, and it just worked its way out whilst I was using it. So we want these ones here, so we can bring that back onto the outer line there, and then we'll leave it like that, so we can just run that route through. So it's quite an interesting route. Of course, it will encourage these couplings to come undone, I imagine. So let's give this a little power and see how we do with that. So it definitely makes a different sound once we've got the bodywork back on. I don't think I've left any hazards on the rails. There's a lot of stuff flying on the railway at the moment. And you've got a lot of friction behind it there. So I think we'll bring that through one more time, and then we'll encourage it to stay on the inner line. So have a look at that running through there. And I'm just going to stop just after the diamond there, and then we'll fiddle with a couple of points, and then we'll rescue those Hornby Dublo items and get those underway as well. Sorry, I really need more Velcro sticky things here. So I want this one here. So I want to go straight. And just whilst I'm here, I'm going to close this one just in case, because I'll forget about it for later on. So make that curved. So we'll grab the controls. Let's just bring that back through that set of points. And that should come into the station. So I mean, that looks, never mind arm's length, that looks pretty good, you know, reasonably up close as well. So, but then I would say that because I spent the last sort of couple of evenings working on it. So let's straighten that one. And then I'm going to try and grab the controls for the Dublo items. And we left those on the corner over there by the 3D printer. I've got the cable is all hooked up round something, so we'll send this backwards. Very colourful, isn't it? So we might be asking for trouble here, but I'm just going to push it through this set of points. I think that brake ground is far enough forward there. So we want number 12. So we want to go curved with that. And let's push those gently through there. A nice gentle Hornby Dublo start. So I'm going to close number 12. I should have gone slightly further ahead. I just sent myself into an isolated section now. So let me have a look. I can't work out what I've done. It's because I've got something else set further around the railway. Let's go back there. We've got a derailment here. I've got points set. Have I crashed through number 10 there? I have, haven't I? So let's do that up again. Yeah, so this has got a plastic chassis and this one's got a metal chassis. They look very similar until you start looking close up, but that accounts for it's really very, very light, that. So let's try this again. There. I'm going to go all the way through to there this time. I'm going to close number 12 again. And then I'm going to open number 10. So I have a feeling I had 10 incorrectly set, which accounts for why it didn't do what I thought it was going to do. I should be, yeah. So let's follow that around for a moment. Comes through the station. And just bring it back around to where I was having trouble with the points. And we'll just have a quick look at those two yellow wagons there. Perhaps not the best place to start lifting stuff up and back on again, but we'll look at that one and that one. So that was my market find from Tynemouth Market quite some time ago. So that's definitely got the metal chassis in it. I mean, it's nearly treble the weight of this one. I mean, there's nothing to it. You open the door, the breeze would make this one blow off the line. But yeah, I think they've cleaned up quite nicely. So we might as well just look at that one. That was the other market find. So again, that's definitely got the metal base on it. We'll just encourage those back on and see if we can get both trains running, just to finish off with. But a huge thank you to the kind person who sent me these items, and they've entertained me for a couple of days, and it's really quite rewarding when you get these things to run again. And over time, once I get my 3D printer sorted out, I will make the part for that caboose, and we'll revisit that and get that running. So I think that's going to be quite a nice thing to finish off. So let's get the Princess underway, and then we'll come back to the Dublo. No, let's get the Dublo underway, and then we'll come back to the Princess. I think we'll do it that way round. So let's see if that's going to behave itself. All looking fairly good to start with. Whoops. Didn't quite get the movement right with that one. So if that's happy running like that, let's get the Princess underway. So Princess is quite a smooth runner, isn't it? But these old chassis really are quite lovely things. Picking up a little pace now as it's warming up. Let's just pop the controls down and see if we can get a couple more interesting angles with it. You can hear the Dublo coming from the right of me at the moment. Have a look at those blood and custard coaches. We'll just come out a little bit wider now. But I think that's probably it for this week. Thank you again for watching. It's hugely appreciated that you take the time to watch. And if you look back again next time, we'll have something else from the range to look at. Goodbye now.